Hey everybody, this is the first video from this new channel, which is going to be called Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, which is going to be named after a project that I'm working on at the moment, which is a little bit out there, right? So I've done a little bit about myself. My name's Joshua Morrison. I've done film for the past 8 years, and I've mainly done a lot of stuff on my own and through working with other people on, like bigger projects. I've been on film sets for, big companies on big films, and I've looked around at these film sets and taken lessons from them to apply to my own film sets because I want to make my own films. There's a few lessons that I've learned, which is on these big sets, there is a lot at stake, and there's a lot of people that are all little cogs in the machine. So, for instance, a couple of years ago, I was on this set. I'm not going to tell you about like what the film was, but we were filming it in this big, stately home, right? And I think my official role was a COVID marshal, which I don't really know what that means. I basically just got a phone call. It just said, Josh, do you want the job? Yeah, okay. And then you go down, you get there at like 7 in the morning. It started off with a lot of like wheeling equipment around and setting things up. I never actually did any setup. I just moved like crates full of stuff and got, cleared rooms for filming or just to store equipment and stuff like that. And I got in about 7 and we were doing a lot of this stuff inside the stately home. And so I didn't leave the stately home until about 9:30 in the morning, at which point I come out and I realise that there's about 60 extras. There's all these tents, there's the sound department tent, there's the lighting department tent, there's the director's tent, there's the cinematography tent. There's so many different tents, and then there's loads of chairs in the middle of all these tents with people all sat around waiting, and then there's runners that come along and give coffees to everybody. And there were honestly must have been about 150 people on this set. And this set really stuck with me actually, because I was looking around at things and thinking, the film that comes out of this, or the TV series, or whatever it was that comes out of this, is it going to be that good for all the resources that they've got, for everything that they managed to get? Are we going to create something that's genuine, that's interesting, that's going to be something more than just some shit to watch while you're sitting on your sofa scrolling through Netflix, watching it dead-eyed like this? And it's not that there's not room for that kind of thing, like reality TV I think does that style of content a lot better because it's fully aware of what it is. It's not trying to give off this aura of pretension that this is a real project, this is something to make you think, and it's not really. And I don't say that to be hating on large films in general. I loved Interstellar. I loved what else have I seen lately? The Platform. Well, that was a lower budget thing. I watched what have I watched? I watched The Batman with right. I bet that had a lot of days that had very similar sets to what I was working on, and I really liked that film. At the first 20 minutes, I was watching it kind of like, Jesus, they're taking Batman really seriously. And then I kind of realised that the directors and the crew were kind of in on the joke. And that made me enjoy it a hell of a lot more because I realised they weren't taking Batman seriously. They were showing Batman in a way that was serious but allowed you to see the ridiculousness of it. And once I figured that out, I was on board with the film, and I thought I was going to turn it on, hate watch it for 20 minutes and turn it off. I ended up watching all 3 hours. And it was a film I started watching about 1 a.m. I had to be up in the morning. And yeah, the film really captured my imagination. I really liked the world building of Gotham and all that kind of stuff. So it's not to say that I'm against large budget filmmaking in general, but I do feel like most of the time it's not something that, for the price of this one show or this one film, you could have split that budget up 1,000 ways and given it to 1,000 different sets of people and come up with 1,000 products, and many of them would have been better than this one show or film that ended up coming out of it. And I'm a big believer in quantity over quality, and I know that sounds counterintuitive, and I know that everyone always goes for quality over quantity. But let me explain why I'm a quantity over quality person, because it's not that I don't appreciate quality and I don't want to make good things. I do. There was this experiment that was done. I'm going to look it up actually. I want to actually get the name of the experiment, because it was something to do with eggs. They had two groups and they were making eggs, right? Quality experiment. Oh, it's pottery. Yes, they were making these pots, right? Qualitative versus no, this isn't what I want. Anyway, quantity leads to quality. Here we are. Yeah. So they had two groups and they both had to make these paper mache eggs. Well, this is the way I've always explained it. They had to make these paper mache eggs, and they had two groups. One group had to make as many eggs as possible in an hour, and another group had to make one egg in that hour, and they had to make it the best egg that they could possibly make. They collected the eggs at the end of the hour, and they surveyed them. They analysed them based off of certain criteria, like, you know, how smooth is the paper mache? Is it lumpy? Is it sufficiently egg shaped? Does it fit these specific measurements? Stuff like that, right? And what they found is that there would be more than one egg in that quantity group that fit those specifications better than the one egg that that quality group made. So despite the fact that the quality group had spent all that time working on that one egg, meanwhile the quantity group was sat there shitting out eggs one after the other, right? Like a factory farm. And they ended up creating more, like 10, 15 times more good stuff than the quality group did. So it's kind of taught me it's better to make a lot of things than to make one thing that you try to make perfect. And I've been burnt on this again and again because I keep apparently having to learn this lesson. So the first film I did was called Michael's Lives, which I don't think I'm going to be able to get up because I've unlisted it, because it was terrible. Yeah, it was terrible. It was filmed on, not even like this, because this was a good camera. This was filmed on something that makes this look like whatever I'm recording that on, which is like the size of this fucking laptop. Oh, here we are. Letterboxd, directed by Joshua Morrison. Here we are. Does it have Michael's Lives 2019? An isolated addict falls in love with a picture on a business card who proceeds to have a very real impact on his mind. Ooh, it's psychological. Oh, it's so smart. Give me a break. So after that, I made a film called Cheap and Easy Meditative Efficiency, which I love that name, and everyone kept telling me to change the name, and I didn't want to. So I made that film, which I can get up because I am actually quite proud of that one. And why? One reason is the title. Look, it just comes straight up. Michael's Lives came up with all crap about Michael Lives and something about Rob Zombie, who's... I like, he's alright, but he's just not for me. So I can show you this because it's my film, no copyright. So you see? This was my film that I filmed in 2019, and I was very perfectionist with it, and I ended up releasing it in 2022. There was a long post-production process that I really did not need to take that long with it. I could have easily released this in like 2020 during the pandemic, but I didn't, because I then ended up going off to make a film called I Am Scum. I made that during the pandemic, and that film, which is here, there we are, I made this in 2022, and because everyone was free, I was able to get a really good cast and crew. We were able to get two DOPs, although they didn't want to refer to themselves as both DOPs. They were very insistent on making titles for themselves. I was like, guys, you're both the DOPs. If the Coen brothers can both be directors, you guys can both be directors of photography. You're both brilliant. I both brought you on because you're amazing at your jobs. So I consider them even in terms of their hierarchy. But I think they wanted, like, I think one became a director of photography and one became a camera operator or something like that, right? So you got really nice shots like this, and this film was very much trying to capture like staticness. I wanted a lot of static shots. I didn't want anything handheld, which is a style I ended up diverting from for the next film that I did, which was my first feature, and is the feature that actually taught me a lot of lessons about film in general. I'm just going to skip a ways through. So this film is called A Sheffield Psychedelic. I shot this in 2021. We shot it up north, and we did it in 6 days. Full-on insane, shooting schedules, really long days, really long hours, one day after the other. It was an adventure that we were all, embarking on. And the film was finished. It wrapped, and then me and the crew there, we ended up working on a couple other films called Scorched Earth and Connie Lynn, 2 other feature films you can find on Amazon Prime. I'll put the links in the description. And what it ended up teaching me was that, actually I'm going to keep it there because it can keep the engagement up, because then you can be watching this while listening to me talk. What all these films taught me was I was trying to do too much, and I was trying to emulate these larger scale films, and I wanted to make a film that was like that, right? You see your influences, you watch a really good film and you want to make something along those lines, but you haven't found your own voice. And if you don't have your own voice, I kind of wonder what the point of doing any of this is, because if you don't have your own voice, what are you saying? You're saying someone else's words, essentially. So for a long time, I didn't make stuff. I worked on music, and I helped out with people, and I freelanced on sets and did like headshot photography and videography and corporate gigs and shit like that. And I didn't make another film for a long time. A lot of personal issues happened in my life that kind of made me realize that I need to get back into it, that I need to actually give this another go, because I've been preaching a lot about this quantity over quality thing, but I've never actually practiced it. And something else that I really take to heart alongside that is you don't get anything done by planning. Obviously you need to plan when the thing has been arranged, but I feel like what's better is to go out and start making a film, even though you don't have everything figured out, rather than to go the other way and figure everything out and sterilize the film first. Because that's what's going to end up happening. You're going to end up creating a sterile product. And I've made sterile products before, and I don't want to do that again. I want to make something that feels organic and naturalistic, and I know the kind of thing that I want to go for. And so Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence is the amalgamation of all of these different lessons that I've learned across the past 6-7 years, as my career has gone from student films to independent artist, which is, another way of saying failure, to corporate videography man, to, gigging like here and there and working retail jobs and, stuff like that, it pays the bills and stuff. And I'm glad that I do that. However, I really felt the need to get back out there and start making something else. And I'm going to stop that because I realise I'm showing you way too much of a film that's not out yet. And yeah, I decided that I wanted to make this film now, because now is when I'm invested in it. Now is when I have the passion to set all this up, just to have a chat, because I've got it all able to flow out of me. Because I know what this film is, I know what it's about, and I know that it's going to resonate with a certain demographic. And everyone that I've spoken to get them involved has said the exact same thing. This character speaks to me. This character speaks to me. And that's some of the highest praise that I've gotten, the most enthusiasm that I've ever gotten for a project is with this film. And that means that I know that this is a good idea, and I know that this is something that I need to get done, rather than to procrastinate on it and try and perfect everything and make sure that everything goes exactly according to plan. At the moment, I'm writing a script, and I've already cast everything. I went through all my old casting calls, right? And I emailed every single person, every single person that I hadn't already hired that lived in London, right? That set their location to London. Some of them had obviously moved away. Some of them weren't interested. A lot of them weren't interested, and a lot of them just didn't respond. Some of them responded just to say they couldn't take up the project because they wanted to prioritise paid work and etc. etc. And I totally understand that, because we need to all pay our bills. It's a cost of living crisis. Things aren't going exactly great, and I'm sat here trying to get people in for free. However, the reason I'm doing it, and the reason I think people are interested in jumping on board, is because, one, they need showreel footage, which is why a lot of people tend to come onto my things. I help a lot of people get onto Spotlight, for instance. And the way that I do that is through providing them with headshots and providing them with showreel footage and guiding them through that early stage of the career. And then once they get onto Spotlight, because the people at Spotlight have managed to infest their way into the industry like rodents, and and now everyone thinks that you need a spotlight in order to be able to get professional work, and it's not the case, I've felt like. However, a lot of people do see it as the case, and a lot of production companies do see it as the case. So in a way, just because I don't see it as the case doesn't mean that others don't see it the same way as me. And some people do treat Spotlight as a be-all and end-all, even though there are alternatives like Mandy or Star Now and I've forgotten the other one, that are there to put an actor's profile out there. So you've got show reels, you've got audio reels, you've got various headshots, you've got a description, you've got a list of their skill sets. Sometimes you want to get an actor in who's able to play the guitar, or you want someone that can dance, or you want someone who can improvise, right? And Spotlight is good for that. Mandy does all the same things as that, and Mandy's not free for actors. I just realised. Mandy, you've got to pay £40, I think a year, £40 a year, something like that. Spotlight, you've got to pay something like £180 a year, which I think is just awful. I think that's foul as a business practice. IMDb Pro also, just so you can get your picture on there, so that when a producer or when a casting director sees your IMDb, they see your face on it. That's all you're getting. You go on Facebook, or you go on Twitter, or you go on YouTube, free. You can get a profile picture for free. Why have I got to pay to get a profile picture on IMDb? I don't get it. Well, I do, because it helps people get work. And if it helps people get work, then IMDb, owned by Amazon, want a little bit of that, right? So I've started making this film. Well, when I say I've started, I've gone out and I've cast a lot of people. I've cast about 30% of the film. I've written 40 pages of what's going to be a 90-page script, and I already know how the story is going to unfold. I've got a list. I've got a treatment that I wrote, cool, which I can't find on here apparently. So across the next couple months, I'm going to regularly do these sort of videos where I talk to the camera and I kind of ramble on a bit. And I think what's important to get across is that I'm not someone that knows exactly what they're doing. I'm doing everything a bit scrappy. And I feel like if you lean into that, you end up with a more authentic image than if you try to look professional and you fail. I would rather something look a bit shit but feel really interesting, rather than something that looks really good but isn't, hasn't got a soul. And it's not that it's either or, but I feel like when you've got a low budget, it kind of is either or, because you can get like a big casting crew together. You can get dozens of people, like runners and cast and assistant cameras and assistant sound, boom operator, sound mixer, focus puller, runner, all these different things, right? And when you get onto those sets, especially in houses, when you do a film that's set in like a house, you've got like a living room scene, what you're going to find is that the spare room is just chocker full of crap It's not even going to get really used for the project. You're constantly sort of shimmying past, going, excuse me, sorry, right? All this, right, gets in the way of what the scene is, because the scene is the most important thing. And as little preamble as possible, in my opinion, from experience, leads to more interesting scenes. I find some of my favourite scenes are the ones that don't look all that amazing, but that have that little something, that little energy that gets suckered out by larger professional sets. And it's not that I want to decry the traditional form of filmmaking. And it's not like I'm doing anything particularly new. I'm basically just, taking from the likes of French New Wave, Joel Haver, who's also took from the French New Wave, and stuff like Clerks and these really low budget, Bad Taste, although Bad Taste is more of a B movie. I'm not out to make a B movie, I'm out to make a micro budget, semi-improvised, semi-comedy, semi-drama. But then it's a British comedy. It's a miserable little comedy about an idiot who shouldn't really be going off spouting his opinion and ends up alienating everyone around him as a result. And I like those kind of films. I love stuff like Alan Partridge. In fact, this is one of my favourite films. Alan Partridge, 12 ostriches, 24 hours, 1 partridge. Alan Partridge, Alpha Papa, out now. Well, out about 11 years ago, right? I love stuff like this. This is my favourite kind of film. I've watched... When I went through some stuff which I might end up talking about if I feel like it, when I went through some stuff last year, I watched this film about every single day, sometimes twice a day for about 2 weeks, and I've never tired of it. I sometimes tire of the third act once they get onto the bus. I feel like it loses something slightly once it gets onto that. Like the final shootout is a little bit, but it's still good. It's still good. But I think what makes it interesting is the character. The character is the key thing. It's like, imagine The Office without David Brent, or Michael Scott if you prefer the American version. Imagine Father Ted without Father Ted. Imagine, I don't know, Blackadder without Rowan Atkinson. These characters are what make the film, and they are the most interesting aspect of a film. It's not the camera work. And if the camera work is the best thing about a film, I mean, it's certainly impressive. Don't get me wrong. Some of the stuff that I see absolutely blows my fucking mind. Especially like stuff they can do with drones now, where they like fly in and out around cars and car chases and stuff like that. The Raid 2, when it's got its action sequences, where like some of these amazing action sequences, like the one in the car that goes from car to car, where they're literally driving and they're handing the camera off to another person in another car. Like, stuff like that is incredible. It is seriously amazing stuff. But I don't find myself going back to the Raid, because I watch the clips on YouTube of the action scenes, but I never go back and watch the whole film, because I never found that the characters spoke to me in a way that something like Alan Partridge or something like The Office or anything like that. The Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy from Before Sunrise. There's something about those characters that speak to me, and I like that very dialogue-driven, very naturalistic kind of thing. And I want to make something that's kind of like that. And I'd like to continue to update you with how things are going, and eventually the film will come onto this channel. You'll start seeing trailers, you'll start seeing little scenes from it, little behind-the-scenes snippets. I'm going to bloody do all the shorts and all that crap. I hate shorts, but I've got to play the devil's game at the end of the day. So, because it's what gets all the engagement. Like, most likely, if you're watching this, you originally found it through a short. And I just think that it's better to go out there, try something, and fall flat on your face, than to go out there and to, stand in the corner at the party, drinking like this. Oh, I don't want to talk to him. Scares me, you know, like, that's maybe why it's called Johnny Mozer's Lessons in Confidence. It's my own lessons in confidence. Like, Johnny Mozer, at the end of the day, is someone who is kind of a lot of my own worst traits put into a person. It's someone that I can very easily tap into because he's not particularly dissimilar from myself. He's very image conscious, and I'm not very image conscious, so there's that. But apart from that, it's not much. It's really not much at the end of the day. And I think what I'd like to do is end this here. And thank you very much for watching, because this is going to be a continual thing. We're gonna do more of these. Sometimes I might bring up a specific topic, you know, like I'm trying to get these sorted out for Sunday. I'm doing a shoot on Sunday, and it's a pain in the ass because I've not used these in a while. So I think they've, like, I don't know. Can technology rot from lack of use? I don't know, but it feels like it has. So I'm thinking, do I need to get new ones, or like, am I gonna? At the moment, I'm recording it onto the phone. So I'm doing it that way. And it's all right, you know, doing it this way. But I don't know if this is going to be the way that it should be done throughout the whole film. Maybe because, like, the noise gain on this is higher. I'll have to check stuff like that through this. And yeah, that's I'm gonna wrap it up there. Thank you for listening. I know it's been quite all over the place. As I get used to doing these, I'm gonna get better at talking and making my point very clear. If you've got any thoughts, put them in the comments. I'll respond to what I can. Let's try and form some kind of, you know, community. You know, if you're in the London area, you want to be part of this project, do shoot me an email at officialmorrisonfilms@gmail.com. I'm going to say it like the radio. That's officialmorrisonproductions@gmail.com. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the other side. Yeah, that's going to be it.